Hey guys, and welcome back to Best Practice TV. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes as people come online live. So stay with us. Apologies, we're running a couple of minutes late, but we are going to be with you very shortly. A couple of things quickly to let you know. We're running live on our Facebook page. So if you want to jump across and post any comments or questions on our Facebook page, and these guys are going to let me know when we're ready to go. We good? Happy?
Yeah.
How many viewers we got?
Can't see yet.
That's cool. So you're getting feed?
Yeah.
Got audio?
Yeah.
Everyone's happy?
86.
Okay, cool. Just going to wait a couple more minutes. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. If you're a Facebook user and you've got a mobile phone in your hand and you're not using it to watch this live stream, hop across into Facebook, search for the Best Practice Certification Facebook page. We're running a live broadcast and you can post your questions there. So if you've got comments, if you've got questions, I'm going to hang around at the end of the session and post any questions. I'll stay live on the feed. If you've got any specific questions, I've got some here on the table ready to go for the end of the session. We'll get through the content and then we'll get those questions answered. I'm here for you. There's a ton of insight here at Best Practice. So if you have got those questions, and nothing silly, post those comments. If you want to keep your question private, you can always email it through to us here at Best Practice. So you can just reply to that email that came out to you earlier. So a couple more, another minute. You're happy?
100.
Good?
Yeah, about 100 people now.
Okay, we're good to go. I'm getting the go ahead. So just quickly, welcome to Best Practice. Welcome to this afternoon's ISO 9001 2015 webinar. I'm going to make what is sometimes quite a dry topic a little bit colourful. And hopefully a little bit humorous and give our sort of real-time insights into what's going on, which is quite exciting. I've got a great team here with me today. I've got Beck, Jack and Shelley behind the cameras, running Facebook, looking after the feed, all that sort of stuff. And hopefully we've sorted out all the technical difficulties. So if for some reason during this presentation your feed drops out, don't panic. We are going to send the recording out as a link at the end of this particular session so that you can rewatch it. So if it drops out, don't panic, make yourself a cup of tea, just relax, and once the presentation's finished, we'll forward that link. It's going to sit unlisted in our YouTube channel, so it will be there for you to revert back to. So a couple of things, a couple of housekeeping things. I'm obviously Kobi Simmat, I'm the CEO here at Best Practice. So the most exciting thing for me in my life is to be able to present this great material to you, but the other part of my life is I run this business also. So I've got a great team of people that support me. We've got a strategic plan. We're growing very, very quickly. Couple of statistics quickly, month on month, January to January, compared to last year, we've had 47% growth. So we are growing very, very quickly. And probably the thing I need to say is that I'm very grateful for you guys out there, our viewers, and the people that are spending time with us here at Best Practice, because that's more people joining our amazing family. So if you haven't seen me before or met me, welcome to our family. Thank you very much for joining us. And you're the reason why I'm here. You're the reason why I get out of bed in the morning. It's to be able to share this great content with you and see you more confident in your career and the businesses and organisations that you work for grow. That's what I'm really passionate about, really excited about. We're trying to share our story as much as we can on social media, and I'll get to that in a minute. So welcome everybody. If you need to take notes, if you need to do something, you can always press pause on the presentation. It's sort of like watching digital TV, so you can press pause. You can stall your side of the presentation. I will continue on, obviously, but then you can come back and press play. You'll just have a couple of seconds lag, but you won't miss anything, which is excellent. So if your phone rings or something happens, no problems. You can take those calls and you can do what you need to do. Press pause. Thank you, Jack. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so just a quick little bit here about Best Practice. We're obviously a certification body in part. That's only about 60% of what we do here at Best Practice. So these great things that you can see on the screen, tell me where I need to be, guys. Yeah. Somewhere here in about the middle. So on my left shoulder, is that correct? We've got some amazing certificates. And so imagine what these would look like in your reception if you're not already a Best Practice client. They're quite cool, and they obviously demonstrate that you've got an amazing management system in place. So we've got the one there with the red logo that you can see on the screen. That's our quality somewhere here. That's our quality assurance certificate to ISO 9001. So that's a bit of a look in at what someone would receive in terms of recognition for their certification. The other thing that we do here at Best Practice is we have this amazing training academy, and it's all online. So we do from time to time face-to-face training. It's quite disruptive to business. It's certainly very disruptive to us here in our business when we run all of company training. So what we've elected to do here is be a little bit more modern and a little bit more efficient, and so we do a lot of our training on a one-on-one basis but online, and that's obviously what we do for you, our amazing audience. So some people in the audience have definitely done some of our training courses, and I hope you enjoyed those. So today's session is sponsored by the Best Practice Training Academy, and it's the revenue from that training academy that pays for this amazing thing to be able to happen, this incredible webinar. So we've had 400 people register for today, so you're a great, amazing family, and thank you all for joining us. So the fun side of Best Practice, and we do have a lot of fun here, is all of these social media handles that we have here. So from Facebook perspective, we do share stories and those sorts of things. And for those of you that are here in Australia, we posted on our Facebook page early this morning a little speech by Tim Minchin, the comedian, and that was quite compelling and similar values to those of ours here at Best Practice. So that's on the Facebook page. Shelley posts little inspirational quotes on Instagram every night, and they're just little pictures, and you can scroll past them obviously, but that's just to keep sort of your business improvement journey and your learning top of mind. On LinkedIn, we have Alexi. Now Alexi's quite an interesting character. He's actually doing some volunteer work in Nepal at the moment after the Nepalese earthquake. He's been sending Snapchats to us today here at Best Practice. So he's writing some great business improvement LinkedIn articles from Nepal. He's been behind the camera for the last 6 months, so he's off doing some travel. We've now got Jack on board, and so that's really interesting place to connect with us, which is on LinkedIn. So in all seriousness, it's obviously a very professional platform. We're trying to have a bit of fun with it, share great content so that you guys can accumulate knowledge, but equally myself. So search for me, Kobi Simmat, on LinkedIn, and make sure you connect with me. So I love having conversations. Often later in the evening, after all the kids are in bed and all that sort of crazy stuff, I'll sit and message people backwards and forwards on LinkedIn. So it's a good time to sort of get me between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. at night, Eastern Standard Time here in Australia. That's a good time to connect with me, and the most likely time that you'll get me for messages via LinkedIn. It's a great platform. Now, one thing that some of you may or may not know is we spend a lot of time in our YouTube channel, often 2 to 3 to 4 videos per week, often only about 3 minutes, and definitely we use YouTube to manage this live webinar environment. So don't miss out on what's happening on YouTube. There's a ton of great stuff there. And a lot of what we say, we found when we spoke live and we spoke at events and we ran training and all those sorts of things, is we found that people were sort of wanting to repeat that message. And so now what you can do is you can share those videos that are on LinkedIn, and that's what they're there for. On YouTube, that's what they're there for. So it's copying that link of one of those videos that you thought resonated with you and sharing that around your company so that people get to hear that message about business improvement or quality systems or environment systems, or safety, or ISMS, whatever it might be. And then lastly, we've got Beck in the room having a play with Snapchat. So we've embraced that, we're experimenting with it, and it's definitely one thing that we're very passionate about here at Best Practice, is experimenting with these platforms, trying them out, and we really don't sit back and say that will or won't work and listen to people's opinions. We try it ourselves, and we experiment with it, and then we can share how it's working for us, how we can use it, how effective it is, and then you can have a try. So rather than just say, no, we won't do it, we'll have a go, we'll give it a try. We've tried different social media apps, those sorts of things, and the ones that work we stick with, and the ones that maybe aren't for us we move away from, but we can definitely share our experience. And that's really what we're here for at Best Practice, is to be a business ourselves, improve ourselves, use our own quality system, think about business improvement, train our staff so our staff are all involved in that process so that we can share that with you. And that's what we're here to do today, so let's get into it. There's my handle, Kobi Simmat, for LinkedIn, just one word. And if I'm speaking too quickly, raise your hand and I'll slow down. Okay, thanks, Jack. All right, so there's a couple of things I obviously want to talk about now. We have in the past previously run an ISO 9001 webinar. That link is still available. It's less interactive as this one. You don't get to see my amazing face, and I'm just going to move off the shot a little bit. How's that for text? Perfect. So from that perspective, we've updated this content. We've got some new experience. So we've got 6 months more experience now since the last webinar in the implementation of ISO 9001-2015, what works, what doesn't work, and what we've tried here ourselves in our company, and then what we've seen happening out in the marketplace. So as far as ISO 9001 is concerned, let's just go back to the first principles. So what's it all about? Now, I've been working with ISO 9001 since 1994. I've worked with probably now somewhere in the vicinity, and it's more than this, but I'm going to be conservative, somewhere in the vicinity of about 3,000 companies in Australia, New Zealand, and North America. And across those companies, there's been sort of a consistent view. It's always these points here, yes, they're my opinion, but I'm starting to now merge, the different insights that we're getting from those different countries into what we're doing here at Best Practice. So it's obviously consistent with what's presented in the first part of the standard, but ultimately, ISO 9001 has a primary focus on managing customer satisfaction, and that's always been the case. It's always been the case. However, people overcomplicate that. Now, what would be consistent across most of your knowledge out there in the community is that ISO 9001 is about bureaucracy, about red tape, about lots of documents, lots of forms, lots of checklists, audits, slowing the business down, the business not being nimble, and that's not correct. So organisations that are in the industry like Best Practice, not Best Practice, but like Best Practice, have, I guess, let the implementation of ISO 9001 drift in that direction. It's been very easy for people to just focus on writing procedures and updating them and doing document control because that's sort of an administrative task, but it's definitely not the case. So I've embarked on a challenge here to correct, through things like this webinar and the training that we're doing, people's knowledge, so that we come around to what it's all about. So the question for you is, and if you want to take notes, is does your customer, so that's the person that you're interacting with, have a positive, amazing, uplifting experience? Now, if they don't have a positive, amazing, uplifting experience in interacting with your organisation, then it's your quality systems job to work on improving that. So that's where we bring in the context of customer satisfaction. So how satisfied are your customers? If you talk about some of the different scores, scoring systems, like the likelihood of a customer to refer you work, and those indexes that you can use to manage customer satisfaction, and some of the more modern ones or some of the old ones. It's about how happy are they, how likely are they to refer you, because we know that word of mouth referral is the best way to grow a business. And so when we're thinking through those processes, ultimately that's the ultimate measure of a quality management system. So some of the other principles in terms of ISO 9001 is, and all the questions here is, how do you ensure you deliver your promises to your customers? So that's your system. Your system is your policies, procedures, training, morale, org charts, scoreboards, statistics, internal audits, management review, business plan, office, presentation, uniforms, all those sorts of things. They're all the things you do to ensure you deliver your promises to your customer. So people come to us and they say, we don't have a quality system, we don't have all the documents. It's like, well, you do have a quality management system because you're an organisation, you've been running for a number of years, you've got some happy customers, so you must be doing something right. Let's capture that, have a look at it, and look at what we could do to improve. So the second part, and this is really a move in the new standard, when we start to look at these remaining points here on this particular slide, is there's a reinforced requirement in ISO 9001-2015, and I'll cover the clause in a couple of slides' time, to look at how do we prevent human error. So that's been reinforced, and we picked out that clause, and I've got it highlighted. I've got the standard here on the table, and we'll have a look at that. But ultimately, that's what we want to look at. So we want to look at the promises, and some of you may have heard me talk about this before, the promises we make to our customers, and then how do we prevent human error? Because if we can prevent human error, and we've got robust software systems and engineering and manufacturing systems in place, ideally, the output of the organisation is always going to be the same. So we want to try and take out that variability, and particularly the variability that creates a negative, not amazing, upsetting, violating experience for your customer. And some of you may have heard me use that term violated before. If customers leave your organisation, customers, clients, people that you interact with, stakeholders, if they leave your organisation feeling violated, that's the opposite to what we want to achieve, because that's ultimately, that doesn't generate word of mouth referrals, it doesn't help businesses grow, customers and stakeholders don't have an amazing experience, and ultimately, I guess, businesses end up in legal disputes, legal battles, or dissolved. So those are the important things to consider there in terms of what a quality system is trying to achieve. Now, I will get into the nuts and bolts. I'll answer some of the questions about, what documents do we have to have and records and those sorts of things, but it's about this framework. It's about thinking less about what documents we need, less about the dates, less about the revision numbers, less about manuals, less about forms. It's more about the customer, and constantly asking that question, in this scenario, on this particular day, what could we do just today that's small to ensure that that customer over there has a more amazing experience and ultimately feels love, joy and surprise. So if customers feel love, joy and surprise, that's like the ultimate magic to a growing organisation and a successful and sustainable organisation. Some of the more reinforced requirements in ISO 9001-2015 are how do we communicate, because ultimately the devil is in the detail, and often the cause of non-conformance and the cause of problem and the cause of issues in organisation, often in a root cause analysis, resides with communication and particularly handoff. So some information that's handed off to someone else. Questions, more strengthened questions in ISO 9001, the new version, around how do we train our people, and that people shall be competent, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. So we're starting to look for more evidence around competence assessment, and I am not a believer in sending people off to 10-day, 20-day training courses to get trained. I'm a believer in the master and apprentice relationship. So that's what we've adopted with our training academy. That's what we're adopting with these webinars, is like a master and apprentice. And while a lot of you in this amazing community that are watching online today have a lot more experience than I do, I've got something to contribute and add value to you, you do to me, and it's about looking at that opportunity and having that sort of one-on-one relationship so people are coached and mentored and looked after to achieve that outcome. Let's think about amazing sporting teams. So an amazing sporting team will play a match, football team or a soccer team or a cricket team, and they'll play that match, but what they will do between games is they'll practice. And so it's practicing and getting the play runs and the procedures and the policies and the handoffs and the plays and the training and the fitness and all those sort of things right before it's game time. But in business, we walk in the door, we start work for the day, we're on, it's game on. And so training is really important in the context of how could we practice this task before we go live, before we're sort of guessing the outcome that the customer is going to have, if that makes sense. So I hope I'm helping you there. So I'd like you to start thinking about that. In business, when we're implementing something new and we're running change management in our business, how do we practice before we have to go live? And then the last one there in terms of 2015 version of the standard is how do we improve and managing those improvement programs. So you'll hear us talk a lot in our YouTube videos and those sorts of things here at Best Practice about hashtag keep improving every day. And it's small incremental improvements. And there's a ton of Harvard business studies now that talk about incremental improvements are a symptom of an amazing organisation that grows very quickly. And there's a ton of studies, and if you'd like to see those in detail and you need to know that fact, we can share those with you. But what those studies are starting to concur on is that companies that make regular small incremental improvements are more sustainable, more successful, grow faster, and have a greater share price than the companies that make massive changes and keep changing and don't follow through on their projects. So small improvements on a day-to-day basis, and that's definitely what ISO 9001 now in the new version is encouraging, which is great to hear. It's gone from the academic world and dribbled down into the international standard and now out to your organisations to benefit, which is excellent. Okay, Jack, how are we going? Next slide. Okay, so what we're talking about here is some of these common complaints. Now, if you participated in the last webinar, you would have seen a list of complaints. We've refreshed this list, not because the complaints are changing, but because there are lots. And so these sort of freshen up what we're doing, and we'll have some new ones in the next webinar that we run. So stay tuned for those. But in this instance, there's a pretty regular one. We've got thousands of policies and procedures that we have to keep updating. And I'm sure I can hear you all laughing out there. It's definitely the case. Now, I'm not a believer in having thousands of policies and procedures. ISO 9001 doesn't say you have to. And so anyone that's of that opinion, ask them like to just prove it. Like, where's it written down that we have to do this? And that's probably a piece of advice that I've been giving for a long time. And if you haven't heard it, is where does it say? Show me where it says, or where does it say we have to do this? And that's going to answer some of the questions as we get further through other clauses of the standard that we're going to look at, and some of the questions at the end is, it's often my response is people say, well, we've got to do this. Like, why do we have to do this? And I'm saying, I don't know. Well, show me where it says that you have to. And it makes you do that investigation. So as we get into ISO 9001, in the new version, we're now talking about this risk-based thinking. And in the context of risk-based thinking, we're starting to say, okay, well, we've got to look at our stakeholders, and the standard says interested parties. Now, if an interested party has a requirement, then you do what the interested party requires, or your stakeholder requires, your regulator, your customer. Don't blame ISO 9001. ISO 9001 is about being lean, efficient, hitting the nail on the head, and it's not about this all-encompassing thing. And I think once we start deconstructing it, and we say to people in our organisation, we do this because this is what our customer expects. We're managing our customer expectation, and our customer is satisfied because we've done the things that they ask. So all the standard's saying is do what your customers ask, or do what you promise to your customer, if that makes sense. Our staff aren't very good at filling out our forms. And so that's, there's a bit of a theme here today in some of the questions that have come through. Our staff aren't very good at filling out our forms. In ISO 9001, there are some elements where you need to prove that you've done something, but filling out a form is one way of proving it. How about capturing it on a video? So if you want to prove something happened, video it. And so I'm seeing in our social media space, when I'm studying it and working out what we're doing and how things are going, I'm seeing lots and lots of stuff now from dash cams. So dash cams in vehicles on roads are capturing what's happening, and if an accident happens, a dash cam is proof of what happened. Now, who's in the right and wrong? Well, that's up to the authorities to prove. But in terms of proving something happened, a small video recording from a dash cam is the same as filling out a form, and probably in a lot of cases a lot more accurate. So a picture is a record, a form is a record, a video is a record, an audio recording is a record. So start to think about that. A timestamp on an electronic file is a record. So what we're starting to look at is our alternatives, and particularly if you're hearing that complaint, our staff aren't very good at filling out our forms, we could say, well, give them more training. I'd say, can't we get rid of the forms? Because they don't fill them out properly anyway. And so you're accepting that they don't fill them out properly. You're not policing it to say that all our staff fill out our form properly. Get rid of the form. Look at another way of capturing that something happened. Our senior management just don't care. So I think sometimes this gets pitched incorrectly in terms of senior management just don't care. Obviously, if a senior manager is just purely about managing the bottom line or the profit of a company, well, of course they're not going to care about the quality management system. So ISO 9001 is saying focus more on leadership, top management commitment, those sorts of things. But what it's actually saying is have leaders in the organisation who are inspired to deliver an amazing service to a customer and innovate so that the customer is always satisfied and the customer is continuing to return, because that makes everybody's job sustainable, makes the organisation sustainable, those sorts of things. So I'm obviously very passionate about a customer experience, and we're constantly innovating to make these webinars more exciting, to make what we do more exciting for you and enjoyable, and ultimately increase the share price of your organisation. That's what drives me, is to help your organisations out there in the community. So that would be capturing. I'm the top management here at Best Practice in our quality management system, how I need to be a leader and I need to communicate. So if they just don't care, then really there's a reality check there about, okay, well, is it really a quality management system? Obviously, if the top management don't care and they are the owners and leaders of a smaller business, then that's difficult. So, in terms of how do we solve this, there's lots of different, ways to skin a cat, but it is important to reinforce the point that leadership in the top of organisations who are more engaged with and understanding customers, you're going to have more flow all the way through the organisation in terms of a quality management system. Why do we have to keep records for 7 years? ISO 9001 says nothing about how long you have to keep records for. What it does say is keep the ability to prove that something happened. And we talked about that. So in terms of keeping records, in Australia's legislative system, there used to be a thing, the statute of limitations. Financial records, there was loose rules, some fixed, some loose, around 7 years, but definitely that's not the case. And we had a long conversation here in our office about records and how long we have to keep them for and what they're for and all those sorts of things. So what I would ask that you do is come back to me and tell me where you found in ISO 9001 that you needed to keep a record and how long for. I guarantee you won't find it, so I won't be hearing from you, but what I will say is, who are your stakeholders? You've got staff, you've got your financial institutions, you've got your regulators, you've got WorkSafe authorities, you've got customers, you've got your law firm that looks after your organisation, you've got your directors, all those sorts of things, and you think about all the records that get created for various reasons and engaging with those stakeholders, whether around how long they need to be kept for and who needs to keep them and in what condition do they need to be and what format they need to be. So lots and lots of stuff now can be kept electronically. Certainly the majority of the financial information in this organisation is all electronic. It's all kept in a secure system. That secure system is isolated from the other systems here in this business, so it's absolutely secure, and it's all soft copy. So, and for the vast majority of the receipts and invoices and those sorts of things here at Best Practice, they're all photos, and most of them are taken with an iPhone, and that's acceptable. So it's starting to think about that sort of stuff and really dig down and say, okay, well, what's the record, and who's the stakeholder, how long do they want it kept for, and that starts to answer that particular question. But there's a few of you in the community that asked it, so I'm going to come back to it later on. No one reads our procedures. Can they read? Or more importantly, are they exciting? What are they for? Do they need them? And so the analogy that I talk about lots here in terms of, no one reads our procedures is, have this vision or this belief to use maybe the cookbook concept. So, and some of you may have heard me talk about this previously, where you've got these amazing cooking programs on television worldwide, and they're attracting a lot of attention. But what they do in terms of getting people to be able to replicate what they do is they use a video or a television show, so audio visual. They use the cookbook, which has got the instructions and the ingredients and the instructions, basic methodology, and a picture of what the finished product looks like. So I think all I can say is that my observation is that in terms of an unregulated industry that has the community's attention, it's cooking shows and cookbooks. And so what we can do in business is we can draw on that. We can say, well, people voluntarily use those systems. They voluntarily buy cookbooks and voluntarily watch TV shows and get excited by them. So in business, can we draw on that and say, well, if we can make our policies and procedures, because they do give people guidance and they do help people do their job, if we can make them look like a cookbook, so what we're saying is audio visual and a picture, they're going to address different learning needs and people's different ability to be able to see and understand the task that they need to complete. So if that's a common complaint, I'd ask that you consider that particular concept. Or ultimately, our quality management system is a waste of time. So for anyone that thinks the quality management system is a waste of time, I'll probably give them the flick. But I think obviously that would motivate me to double down on my sales pitch of why a management system is a good idea and why good quality risk management in any organisation is a good idea. And it's about building sustainability, it's about building continued profitability, financial health in an organisation, amazing customer satisfaction, so that the organisation continues to thrive. And so that would be my sales pitch. And if I still can't sell someone on it, I say, well, why are you here? Why bother? Like, you clearly don't want to be here in this organisation. What's your ideal scene? What else might you be passionate about, so that you don't bring down the morale in everybody in this particular team, because they're all very motivated around what they're doing. Okay, Jack, let's go. Okay, so what's new in ISO 9001 2015? A quick summary. The first thing is Annex SL. So what has happened in ISO 9015 and across all of the international management system standards, they now follow a common format. So for those of you out there that want to integrate or have an integrated management system, you can look at the core threads. You can look at objectives and targets and management review and how those two things link together in the context of business planning. If your organisation has a separate business plan to the quality management system, I'd ask you to look at that, because ultimately the objectives and targets of management review are 9001's way of saying, have a business plan and check back in and look at how you're going. There's more of a focus on leadership, positive, uplifting leadership, and influence. And so what I'm working on personally and my personal development here at Best Practice is how can I be more influential? And for those of you, and I know there's a few of you in the community, you will have observed me over a number of years change how I speak, change how I liaise with people, and now what I do is ask a lot more questions. And those are the questions about asking you what you can do to improve. What can you do to improve? What can you do to be a more effective leader? And I've found, and I've got a little analogy at the moment, is do you think you would be more effective ending your sentences with a full stop or a question mark? Do you think you would be more effective as a leader ending your sentences with a full stop or a question mark? And so what the quality management system is starting to do on ISO 9001 is starting to say, well, we can clearly see that there are a lot of very poor leaders, and so it's focusing on leadership, it's focusing on competency. And so one of the mistakes people are currently making is they're thinking that everybody, or the bulk of people in the organisation, need to have competency assessment, but they're forgetting to consider top management all the way down. The people on the board, the chairman, all the way down through the CEO, the COO, CFO, the executive level, everybody, competency assessment. Are they competent to hold that position, to deliver the outcomes or the promises that the organisation's making? So number one, not conducting the competency assessment and ongoing professional development of the executive leadership in the organisation. Write that in your notes. We're seeing that consistently. What I will say, however, is for our assessors that are out with our clients, that's a really challenging topic, and it will get people offside very quickly. And so for us, yes, we need to do audits and we need to be a certification body, but I will say it's hard for us to push, but it's the biggest deficiency, and I can say it here in this webinar, that we're seeing across a lot of organisations is, yes, all the people in the warehouse and out on the construction site and on the mine site and driving the trucks, they've all got their tickets, they've all got their competency assessment, they're all checked, but the supervisors, maybe they've got their tickets and they're checked, but the managers and the executive level people are not. And so it is important to have that very uncomfortable conversation across the team and say, okay, what skills, qualifications, and experience do those people need, and what ongoing professional development to continue to improve their leadership skills, their influence skills, and obviously their growth and planning skills for the benefit of the organisation in the context of customer satisfaction, because we're talking about quality management systems today. Okay, so what's new in ISO 9001? Point 3 there is it's more of a what could go wrong approach. And so this is my language, and I'm trying to put it down into sort of that lay terminology for you. And the standard calls it risk-based thinking, but it's a what could go wrong. So what could go wrong? What could we do to upset our customer? So we've got 4 different types of customers, we've got 100 different types of customers, we've got 1,000 customers, we've got 50 million customers. What could go wrong for them, and how is it associated with our services? Is it us directly, or indirectly are we guilty by association? And that starts to form up your risk-based thinking. Equally, in the standard, as attached to this point, is what could go right? What could be the thing that just projects them into the stratosphere in terms of them being in love with your brand for the rest of their life? And what I'll probably talk about is I wear Levi's jeans, for those of you that know me and see me all the time. So that's the brand of jeans that I wear. They happen to fit, very attached to that brand. I have been for 25 years. They used to have an amazing little story on the label, a little cardboard label, reading that amazing story and talking about it being sort of the worker's gene, and the worker's jeans, the worker's trousers, and their evolution. And also, I like the countries that Levi's are made in. They're not all made in China. Lots made in Mexico, and I like supporting the people in those areas. And so for me, that's really critical. It's not about buying jeans from Italy because they're in some amazing factory. It's really about supporting those people in those places, and equally, the ones that are made here in Australia. So I do buy some Australian-made products, but it's thinking about that. So for me, that little tiny thing that was attached to those jeans 25 years ago has meant that I've stuck with that brand the whole time. Criticise me if you will, but that's my thing. So thinking about a what could go wrong approach to quality in the context of risk-based thinking, and we can talk more about it later on, but ultimately it's about if you wanted to say, well, what would I show you? How would we audit that section of the standard? Start with a SWOT analysis. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Start with that. Capture that how you see fit in your organisation, but it's a really good opportunity to say, well, what could we do? what could go wrong, what could go right, what are our opportunities, what are our threats, and start to drill that down. And that's definitely with the people that I've sort of talked to, that were part of preparation of this standard and sort of the evolution of this direction. You can see that from this from the environment and safety standards and the evolution of those concepts, risk management, across into your quality standard here. There's an enhanced requirement for dashboards, graphs, ensuring a clear picture of your organisation's performance. Do you have a clear picture of your organisation's performance, and how often are you presented with that clear picture? I bang on about it a lot, but here at Best Practice we have 30 statistics that we record and report every Monday at 11 o'clock, and we've been doing that for 4 years, and it gives us a constant clear picture of how we're tracking. Yes, we change the numbers week to week, not week to week, maybe month to month. We'll subtly adjust some of the statistics as they become redundant, irrelevant, not telling the right story, but we can focus in on different parts of the business, zoom in, zoom out, and change our focus as we look around the organisation. So without sort of digging down into the clauses of the standard, we've just said in brackets here monitoring and measurement in terms of ISO 9001, but it's an enhanced requirement for dashboards, graphs. That's the sort of stuff that you're going to use to demonstrate that the standard's in place, but more importantly, grow your organisation, get the clear picture, identify the opportunities for improvement, and prioritise them. If we do this, these customers will be more happy and buy more, or do more, or interact more with us. If you're a not-for-profit organisation, this is going to help us with our compliance, those sorts of things. So it's about getting that clear picture. Stop focusing on the policies, the procedures, the documents, the revisions, the dates, the paper, the toner, all that sort of stuff. Focus on the numbers and think about what could you do to improve that performance in that area, if it needs to be captured, and if written down instructions are a good way to help your organisation do the same thing over and over again and prevent human error, go ahead and write those documents. But if other things are more effective, then use those other more effective controls. Last point here on the slide, this is without a doubt the most This is without a doubt the most exciting for me upgrade to ISO 9001 since the beginning. Since in 1994 I put my first quality management system together. It's the most exciting upgrade because it just says, you know what, focus on your customers. You know what, help your team understand what they are and aren't doing right. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Look at the stuff they're doing wrong. How can they improve that? Can someone else come in and be stronger at doing that thing because it's their strength? If someone's just not very good at it, then get someone in that is good, and get the person that's not very good at that to do the thing that they're good at, and that's the competency part of the standard. So it's, you know, that more enhanced requirement from a competency perspective. So I'm really, really excited, and most importantly, it's a better standard for doing self-evaluation. It's not hard to read. It's here. I've got a copy of it. I can't share the detail with you for fear of copyright infringements, but what I can definitely say is that it's not a very big document. It's easy to read. And I find that I'm more successful in understanding this standard when I come back to it. And I'll come back to it every sort of 4 to 6 weeks and just have a read through. And Shelley and I were reading through yesterday in preparation for this webinar and pulled out some new terminology that I hadn't seen before. So I've read it cover to cover probably a dozen times, and I'm seeing new words, new context every time I read it, and a more efficient system and more confident to talk about it, and I'd encourage you to do the same thing. What I can say is that if you're in Australia, you can now purchase this standard from the ISO store. So if you don't want to buy from the current provider of standards here in Australia, you don't have to. It's an international document, and you can purchase it from ISO.org. And equally, there's some great information. So I congratulate ISO for their great website, the great stuff that they're doing. And while it is sort of a tightly wound copyright-based system here in Australia with the sale of standards, definitely if you're outside of Australia, it's really, really easy, but that's where we purchase our standards from now. We purchase them from ISO.org. Same price, but certainly I want to make sure that the funds go to the right source. Okay, so top 5 focus points. Some of you may have seen these before, and they're the same, because I'd encourage you to do it. I'm going to skim over it. So if you're watching on a mobile device, do a screenshot. If you've got an iPhone, you press the home button and the power button, and that'll screenshot it. We'll screenshot this slide and and put it in the comments, but you can come back to this presentation. This is probably the most important slide in the whole presentation for anyone who needs to get other people in the organisation on board. So screenshot it or write the points down. Or how am I still on the screen? Perfect, so they can see all the points. So our top 5 focus points are: get a good understanding of what page 6 is saying, because that's the sales pitch. It's what ISO 9001 is all about. It sets up the context. The quality management principles are on page 7. It's important to understand the plan, do, check, act cycle as it relates to business planning. We see a big disconnect between the business plan or no business plan in most organisations. We see a massive disconnect between the business plan and the management system that runs the organisation. All this risk, safety risk, environment risk, corporate social responsibility, financial risk, insurance risk, quality management systems, and then a business plan. And the two don't talk to each other, and that's ridiculous. And so I'd encourage you to understand, how does plan, do, check, act work in every single department for every single person in the whole organisation? And that's truly embedding a management system. And if you did nothing but train and campaign and nag and educate all of the staff in the organisation in their induction on plan, do, check, act, and only that, then you're going to have a great springboard for the rest of your quality management system, because when they walk in the door, they understand, oh right, okay, so I've got to plan what I'm going to do. We're going to do it, we're going to have a look and see how we went, and then if we did, oh shit, that didn't go well, okay, what are we going to do to improve that? And so constantly practicing and improving. And again, use that hashtag keep improving every day. It's about plan, do, check, act, and improving every day. You don't need to formalise it, you don't need to write it down, you don't need to record it. It's just constantly thinking about that. So there's something for one of your inductions, if you think it's worthy and it's going to add some value. Okay, so page 9 in Roman numerals there talks about risk-based thinking, and then section 9.1.3, analysis and evaluation. How are we going for time, guys?
Got about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. All right, I've got tons of time, so stay on live. We'll keep recording, we'll keep the link, but we'll try and stick to time. So as we move through, the previous point on the previous slide, just to cover it off, we talk lots about dashboards here at Best Practice. It's about getting that clear picture of your organisation's performance, and that was the part of the standard that we talk about. Okay, 6.1, actions to address risks and opportunities. So I was speaking to a gentleman earlier in the week who's an organisation that we're working with up in North America, and a great organisation. They're international, 17 countries, really exciting project, and a really exciting certification that we're working on, amazing services. And he talked about some deficiencies around risk and opportunities and how that was being audited, how it was being implemented, and where should they go. So we've picked that clause as a result of that conversation this week, because it is something that people are struggling to understand and apply. So my question to you, in the context of this clause, so have a read of section 6.1 of ISO 9001 and ask these questions. Can you, or in the context of this, your organisation, can your organisation deliver the promises you make to your customers? Can you deliver them? So what are the promises we make to the customers? What does that mean for your organisation? And can we, right now, yes or no, closed question, yes or no, deliver those promises? So if the answer to that question is yes, okay, how? Is there any opportunity for human error? This is the concept of risk-based thinking. What are our opportunities for improvement? What are the opportunities that we've got to enhance our customers' experience so they keep coming back? We're revisiting the organisation. We get more grant funding if you're a not-for-profit, or if you're a service provision organisation, that they have an amazing experience and they tell all of their friends. So our grant body, our government body, our regulator, all those sorts of things have a good interacting experience with us, or we just don't cause them any problems. So the next point there is, does your system drive to improve your features and benefits? So in any organisation, there's a set of features and benefits. We talk about, our values pitch, our priority, what we're doing, our all the bullet points that go in the brochure. We've got one here for best practice. This is it here. It's a great looking document. It's got lots of great pages. It's got the bullet points. This is all the amazing stuff. Look at it. Best practice ticks. That's the brochure. It's the sales pitch. So, but does your system, the processes you go through, the management system you have, does it drive to improve those features and benefits? So we've said, here's a feature of best practice, that if you get certified with best practice, you have better sales and marketing. So increase competitiveness in your marketplace. Right, okay, so how does best practice help our clients do that? We sent out 5,000 postcards this week to people that might buy from a company that's certified. That's what we're doing here at Best Practice to help our clients tell people that being certified with Best Practice is a good thing, and they'll start to see the Best Practice logo around and go, oh, actually, that company's got Best Practice. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, they must be good. So that's what we're doing. That's our management system. So our marketing team are part of our management system to help drive our features and benefits, which is that best practice is a good thing, to benefit you if you're a client of ours. So how can your organisation, how can your management system, how can what you do drive those improvements? If you're, and I know there's a few safety people in this presentation learning about ISO 9001, a good safety record, well, of course that's going to be fantastic. If you've got a poor safety record, from customers' perspective, well, we don't want that construction company on our site doing our development because they might kill somebody. Or from a retail perspective, well, as a customer, I'm not going to go and shop in that facility because it's unsafe. So a good safety record and a good safety management system that prevents incidents and accidents is a good thing from a customer perspective. So we can start to bring all of that stuff under that umbrella of the quality management system. So does your system prevent or reduce undesired effects? And so that's the, think about the consequences of your actions. So if the consequence of your action is a good thing from a customer's perspective, do it. If the consequence of your action is a negative thing from a customer's perspective, then don't do it, and put preventative strategies in place in your organisation so they don't happen. And that would be your management system, your controls, if we call it those. If you haven't got it now, can you show project plans to address risks and opportunities that are not currently controlled? So what we're seeing is threats, if you like. So from a SWOT analysis, we're seeing threats, we're seeing weaknesses, and the organisation's saying to us, we haven't fixed this yet. And we're saying, that's cool. Let's look at what the standard says. And in 6.1 of the standard, it says that there are plans in place to address those things. So they might not be under control yet, but you're on the improvement, you're on the graph of improvement. If you look at the best practice logo, it's performance over time. So we're starting to look at improvement, and we've got plans in place to improve that statistic, which ties back to those dashboards and graphs and clear organisational performance picture that I talked about earlier. We've got plans in place to actually improve it. Can't improve it now, so our graph's going to go flat. But what's going to happen when this project's finished? Our performance is going to improve, if that makes sense. Righto, Jack. 8.5.1, control of production and service provision. Lots of questions always about this. I keep coming back to it. I know this sounds frivolous and I apologise, but just get that whole management system and put it in the bin. All the policies, all the procedures, all that rubbish. We've got it here at Best Practice. We've got a Dropbox folder that's got thousands and thousands of things that have been written. This is how you lodge an expense claim, and this is the uniform you wear, and this is the haircut you have to have, and all those sorts of things. It's just not relevant. So yes, we use it, and yes, we improve it, and yes, we update it, and we use it in inductions, and we train people, and when it all goes pear-shaped, we refer back to it. A lawyer once said to me, if you have to refer to the document, you're not going to recover. And you're talking about the context of contracts and the law and legal requirements. So if you've got to refer back to the document, well, it's obviously gone pear-shaped. So my question to you is the master and apprentice concept in terms of learning. And so when we talk about control of product and service provision, this is not, it used to be, but it's not now the part of the standard where you write lots of policies and procedures. It's where you have a look at these points and you say, your organisation must have, in accordance with the standard, control conditions for providing and supplying your products and services. So let's just explain that. We talked about, can you deliver your promises to your customer, and can you avoid human error, because I talked about that earlier. So your organisation must have control conditions, that's the requirement of the standard, for providing and supplying your products and services. Well, why wouldn't you want to have that? Because you want to deliver the service to the customer right, on time, on budget, right cost, right time, all that amazing, just-in-time stuff. So then you have a system in place anyway, right? So what documented information do you, keyword here, need? What do you actually need? You do need the set of instructions. So right now I need a document that's got a question on it because I'm going to answer it for some of the people out there. I need the documented standard because it's got the words that you need to follow. But apart from that, we don't need many other documents. I don't need a document to tell me how to present this webinar. A lot of that's committed to memory, so that's my training, skills and experience. So for you, that keyword there is really what you actually need. So, and when you think back to my analogy about cookbooks and the cooking industry and that great stuff, I think I need the video of how to cook an amazing chocolate cake more than I need the recipe. And the video explains the ingredients that I need. I do sort of remember what the ingredients are, so I just need my memory refreshed a little bit. I need to remember the method and what steps to follow and not forget a couple of steps and sort of follow that through, if that makes sense. So maybe, cookbooks are a good thing because the procedure or the work instruction is just that one page. It's just got a couple of little reminders. Hey, don't forget about this, don't forget about this, don't forget about this. And because I'm inspired and motivated to deliver an amazing outcome, that's all I need. So something to consider, that's all I need. How do you monitor and measure that acceptance criteria for your products and services are met? So, what does that mean? This webinar, quite tricky. Have your needs and expectations been met? We started almost on time. We've got some great content. We're hopefully doing what we promised we would do for you. It's free. So those sorts of things, and it's thinking about that. But how do we monitor and measure acceptance criteria if it's something that you're commercially transacting with? Do you need your customers sign off? Do you need an internal sign off? Do you need a quality check? Those sorts of things to start to think about. If you talk about Toyota as a car manufacturing company, and there'd be 1,000 different stories about them, I heard a story once upon a time that there's 50,000 potential defects in a vehicle that comes off the production line. So there's 50,000 things that could be wrong. That means it doesn't operate, it's not safe, it's not the right colour, it's scratched, it's smeared, it's smudged. Now, I had a new vehicle delivered a few years ago, and I could see on the windscreen the suction cup marks from when they had installed the windscreen in the factory, so the windscreen hadn't been cleaned. Is that a defect? I still accepted the vehicle. I said, give that a quick buff. But not something you would necessarily expect. But really interesting, driving into the sun, first day I picked up the vehicle, and I could see the suction cup marks because the windscreen was filthy. So it's just thinking about those sorts of things and saying, okay, well, what is it in our organisation? And there's quality standards sort of digging down into that. Start to think about that. Now, this would be you checking before your customer checks you. Because if your customer checks you and it's wrong, gee, that's very embarrassing. And not only that, maybe you made your customer angry, violated, upset, I'm not going back to them, or more importantly, not paying you for the service. Do staff need specific qualifications or training to create or deliver your product or service? Something to think about. Specific. Have you got processes in place to prevent human error? Now, yes, we can think about that and how long's a piece of string, but it's starting to unpack and understand from a risk-based thinking perspective, and that's all I want to do today is be thought-provoking. I want to start to ask you what sorts of things in your organisation could impact the outcomes because of human error. And that's where you maybe want to focus. How much of an impact would that have on the customer? Would that mean the customer's not going to pay, or the funding body's not going to give us our funding in the next round if you're a not-for-profit? How do you identify that a product or service is ready to be released? So, something to consider. Okay, Jack. So, when we talk about that, and we talk about all those sorts of questions, I'm going to encourage you now to consider the hierarchy of control. And that's something that we're bringing across from safety, which has been sort of well talked about, and some of you might be nodding your head. This is where we bring the hierarchy of control into a quality management system, and we say, if there is the potential for human error, how can we eliminate it there at that top level? Could we substitute? Can we substitute the process, the procedure, the place? We can replace it. Now, down the side of the screen there, it talks about hazards, but let's talk about it in the concept of quality. I want to challenge you to start to think about this. Definitely an opportunity to integrate your system. What might be engineering controls, software, calculators, equipment, robotics, engineering, all those sorts of things with any of your processes so that you guarantee the outcome. Share a funny story with you, and I apologise if we've done this to you. The most embarrassing thing that we can do here at Best Practice is spell a company name wrong on the certificate. And you know what? It happens. We have an amazing CRM where we type in the company name and that's it. And that CRM spits out certificates. So we've tried to engineer, if you like, or substitute the risk so that it's not someone just like looking at one screen and looking at another or copying and pasting names, but it still happens. And you know what happens? It happens when people do it manually instead of following our process. Oh, Kobi, the CRM, it's too slow, it doesn't print out the certificates properly, they look like crap, so I just did it all myself in Microsoft Word. So that's where we have problems. When someone gets all frustrated and says, this thing doesn't work, and they do it in Microsoft Word, I go, cool, you're not frustrated anymore because you did it in Microsoft Word, but you know what you just did? You frustrated the customer and me because you didn't use the system and you got it wrong. So that's where we've tried to solve the problem. We are humans and have a giggle at our expense. I'm okay with that, but it happens, right? So we spell people's names wrong, we get certificates wrong, we get all this, and I hope this doesn't negatively reflect on us. I'm just being honest. We try really hard to do it right. We check it, we test it. Sometimes what's in front of you, you just don't see the problem. And so for us, what we're constantly doing, and we're going through an amazing project right now where we're building a new database that's hopefully going to prevent this happening in the future. So I apologise if we've done it to you. It doesn't happen that often, but it is incredibly embarrassing. And I don't like upsetting people. And it's about, it's that final thing. There's been an amazing service, but it's that final thing that we sometimes do, and it just upsets the whole apple cart. So constantly working on it. It does drive me to have a better and better system, but that's how we use the hierarchy of controls. Personal protective equipment might be a bit challenging. If you've got suggestions, I'd love to hear them about how we can use PPE in a quality management system. Maybe the amazing uniform, well presented. Maybe it's personal hygiene of our customer service staff. They don't have body odor, their breath doesn't smell. Those sorts of things, how you present your organisation, your marketing, your branding, all that sort of stuff. Okay, Jack, let's go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank everybody for listening to that great content, and I hope it was for some value for you or provided some value. I just want to talk to you about a couple of things here. We have got a course in our training portal on ISO 9001 transitioning. We also have a training course on ISO 9001 where we go literally clause by clause, line by line through the standard, and they're all in separate videos and they all sit there in that training course. So as you're learning more and more about the standard, it's a great place to grab a copy of that course. So purchase the course, and then you can go forwards and backwards through that. As you get to a part of the standard, you might be doing an internal audit, you might be training your organisation on that. It's a great course to purchase. It's not something that you just do and it's done. So we've moved away from you come to our office or our training rooms and you do a course and that's it, it's done and dusted. When you purchase a course from the Training Academy, you put in your email address. I'd suggest you use your personal email address. You pay for the course, you get username and password, and it's yours and it's accessible forever. So it is really cool because you can keep coming back to it, and then you can refer back to it and go forwards and back in a particular course. So there's transitioning courses for the new standards for environment, for quality. It's a great internal auditors course over on this side, our internal auditors course. We've taken what was our 2-day internal auditor course that we used to run on a one-on-one basis or on a group basis. We've converted that all to videos. It's got the workbook. It's got an amazing book on internal auditing that we've updated. I think it's now up to its 11th edition. It's an incredible handout. You can print it out and you can use that as your reference if you're conducting internal auditors, or you can use that manual to beat our assessors over the head with when they're not doing the right thing. So it is quite cool. So that's our internal auditing course. And equally for each of the standards, we have a course where we go clause by clause through the standard and explain it in this same content. So what we've done today is give you a bit of an insight into the different clauses of the standards, how we present those courses. You want more? There's tons more there, and they're great value. So if you are excited by that, I think on the next slide we have an offer. So we've got a bundle deal today for you guys, and it's only for you guys and this is the Training Academy. This is what funds all this amazing work that we do. We've got ISO 9001 2015 Essentials, so that's the course where we go clause by clause through the standard. I'd encourage you to definitely have a look at that course. There's an intro video that just explains it, so you can watch that video before you actually purchase it. And Shelley and Lauren have bundled up the 9001 Transitioning, which talks about the transition between the old standard and the new standard. They've put it into one bundle deal with a massive discount, and they've got it there for $4.99 Australian dollars including GST. So for you and your organisations, you basically take $50 off that. So it's a $450 course, $50 tax, and it's tax deductible. So that's a really exciting deal. So it's because we love you guys, and it's because we love our family out there. But what we are going to say is that offer ends on Valentine's Day. When's Valentine's Day? Yes, says everybody. I probably wouldn't recommend buying it for someone for Valentine's Day. I didn't think about that, Shelley. Shelley's like, you can't put hearts on the slide, but it is. It's because we love our audience. Thank you for being part of our great family. I've got some questions, so stay online, but that's a great offer, and it's available on our training portal. So you log onto our website, the same place that you went to register for the webinar. Have a look through. There's a ton of great courses, and I would encourage you to grab those because it's a great deal, and it's there for you. It's a ton of great content. You don't have to watch it all in one go. Watch it on a mobile device, which is really cool. So the software that we've selected to run this, it runs probably better on a mobile device. So you could sit at home on the couch and watch it on an iPad or obviously on a computer screen. A lot of video, lots of notes, and they're fantastic. So, should we get into some questions? What do we got, Shelley? You want me to do that one first?
Got that one first.
So, if you'd like to post some questions, you can post those on. Are we still live on Facebook?
Yeah.
We're live on Facebook. If you want to post a question, and now's the time to do it, or YouTube, if you want to post a comment. If you watch on Facebook, you'll see that I'm standing in front of a green screen, so that I can stand on a PowerPoint slide, so it's going to look a bit crazy. Don't get too spun out. So you can post a comment on our Facebook page. Shelley will read it out. But we've got one here. So shout out to David and Amanda, and lots of history with these guys. Thanks very much for the question. So it's around inspection and test plans, and inspection, so ITPs and ITCs, and in terms of quality works in process. And I did think a lot about this. So this question comes from a construction company that have a long history, great quality of work. They're renowned for some incredible work. I won't sort of name names at this stage. If you want their contact details, they do commercial work. Give us a call and I can tell you who they are, but I won't sort of share them because I don't want to embarrass them online. But what I can say, incredible quality work. I've known about the company for a very long time, and what they've got is they've got quite a cumbersome quality management system, which has got ITPs, which are inspection and test plans, and lots and lots of control documents, checklists, and sign-offs as part of the workflow. Now, it is always a challenge with the constant turnover of staff to keep people motivated and inspired and competent in filling out quality documentation out on project sites. So the first question is, are they required by ISO 9001? And the answer to that question is no, they're not. However, they may be required for some of their clients. Definitely some of the government work that they do, it's a mandatory requirement. Those forms and that quality checklist paperwork needs to be submitted with the invoice to get paid on works up to $1 million. So that's a government client and you're doing the work and you're filling out that paperwork for that client. So my recommendation would be to try and open a conversation with the clients on those projects when they're being set up to say, how much detail would you like in this paperwork? What sort of guidelines have you got for us in terms of what you want us to prove and sign off on as part of construction of this project? Otherwise, the alternative, if it's not required, is to just do what you're happy with. So with your trades, your subcontractors, your packages, what is going to give you confidence in the product that you've been provided? And for the bulk of your subcontract packages, what can they provide to you? So do you do the inspection yourself? Do you get your site foreman or your supervisors or your project managers to do those inspections? Or do you get a self-reporting sign-off from the contractors you're using? So it's about you guys having the confidence in your end product and that human error has been prevented. And the paperwork's not necessarily going to prevent it, but maybe it could be a photograph or a video, those sorts of things as part of that inspection. And that becomes the record that something was done. Definitely, major construction and structural construction, you're going to get the engineer to do those inspections. So maybe it's time to liaise with the engineer on, you're doing steel inspections and structural inspections through the major parts of the project, but I would probably anticipate that it's the finishing trades that are a problem. I'd probably recommend that the waterproofing trades would be the ones that you might focus on. So you might have really heavy paperwork for waterproofing trades because that's where you get big valuable defects that cost you a lot of money, but move out into those other areas. So David, I said I would talk to you about that, and so give me a call. Okay, who else?
Yeah, we've got a question here. What are the main benefits of the new 2015 standard?
The main benefits of the new 2015 standard is, aside from it being amazing, is that it's a much more condensed standard that focuses more on improvement, more on communication, more on leadership, and more on performance tracking. So it's a shorter standard, it's easier to integrate with safety and environment. So in terms of having a risk management framework for all types of risks across the organisation, it's consistent now. So it's a great little guidance document. So even if you don't get certified, even if you don't want to have anything to do with this sort of certification industry, you just want to maybe do some of our training courses, you just want to use it, sort of loosely refer to it in your organisation, give you some guidance, great little standard to give you sort of a, all the different types of risk, our financial risks, our customer risks, our safety risks, our industrial relations risks, our legal risks. Really good way to say, okay, what could go wrong? What are going to be the things that we're going to do to prevent that? How are we going to check that we keep doing the things to prevent it? So if you stop to, so an internal audit's about checking that we're doing the things to prevent the things happening. And so people say, we don't want to do our internal audits, but that's sort of one of the ways to keep checking that things are in place. So sort of the random sampling and looking. Does that make sense? So it's amazing, it's shorter, it's got an integrated approach to risk, it's not bureaucratic, doesn't require you to write lots of documents, the list goes on.
Do you still need a quality manual?
Do you still need a quality manual? Do I want you to have one? No. Let's read what the standard says. The standard says, the organisation's quality management system shall include documented information required by this international standard, documented information determined by the organisation as being necessary for the effectiveness of the quality management system. The extent of the documented information for a quality management system can differ from one organisation to the next. So, do you need a manual? What do you use them for? So, quality manuals were meant to be used to give people guidance on where things were and what to follow. So a quality manual was meant to be like the contents page of a recipe book. This is where all the recipes are, this is where all the instructions are for how to do things in the organisation. So my question to you is, how does someone in your organisation, who knows the organisation, they've been there a little while, they've been inducted, how do they know where to go to find the information, or where do they go in your organisation to find the information to do their job? That's your quality manual, if you like. And so we've moved away from this big fat document. We've got one here at Best Practice, big fat certification manual that JASANs require. It'd be nice if JASANs moved into the future and stopped us needing to write all this stuff down and have 1,000 procedures. Probably shouldn't blame JASANs. I'll get off my high horse because it's an international standard and it's our international standard. However, people go here at Best Practice into our videos. They go into our different systems and different processes to find out what to do. And so, use an intranet site, use a website, use a Facebook page. Here at Best Practice, we use a closed private Facebook group to do lots of communication and training with our staff. We post videos. We track who watches the videos. That's like our record of training. It means that people don't have to stop what they're doing to do the training. They can do it at a time that's convenient. We don't have to stop the whole company all at the same time to run training. So, did I answer the question? Yes.
Yeah, we've got one more.
Yep.
Which is, why has risk-based thinking been introduced to the standard?
Why has risk-based thinking been introduced to the standard? Look, I think that it's something that's been coming for a very long time, that there's been an emerging sort of concept that think about the consequences of your action and do something about it. The first couple of versions of the standard said plan. People didn't understand that plan meant risk, and so I think what's happened is the standards evolved to be more meaningful and more easy to understand, and I think it's quite exciting. So risk-based thinking, the international management community now understands risk, And so rather than say plan your quality management system, it says have risk-based thinking, and the executive goes, of course, I know what to do. And then it all falls into place and it's much easier. More questions, Shelley? No, that's it. So I'm going to stay online with our Facebook page and monitor those questions. So if you want to post those comments there or on YouTube, we'll monitor those. I'd like to thank everybody. Jack, if you just want to go back up one slide for me. I just want to encourage everybody to take advantage of this bundle deal. And thanks very much for joining us. So have a look at our training portal. You get there via the bestpracticecertification.com.au website and click the training button, and you'll go into a portal where all the training courses are. I encourage you to have a look at those. This amazing bundle deal is only available till Valentine's Day, and as much as I'd encourage you to give this gift, amazing training gift, to your Valentine, maybe consider whether that's relevant or not. But have a great time. Thank you for being part of the Best Practice family. Don't forget to hit me up on LinkedIn. So I'll be on LinkedIn later tonight. So if you've got any more questions, happy to answer them via LinkedIn Messenger on a one-on-one basis. So hit me on LinkedIn at Kobi Simmat, one word. Have a look at Instagram. If you're a Snapchat user, start following us on Snapchat. We've got some great stuff. That's where you see all the fun that happens here in the Best Practice office, which is quite cool. So thank you for being part of the Best Practice family. If I haven't seen you before and you've seen me now, welcome. And I will see you next time on Best Practice TV on YouTube. Lots of great stuff coming to you this year. Thanks very much for joining us. So hop across into YouTube. There's a ton of great videos. Share them with as many people as you can because we need people to hear this great message. I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye for now.